Donald Trump agreeing to debate Kamala Harris on ABC in September, and he says he wants 2 other debates as well. Trump making the announcement during a news conference today at Mar-a-Lago, and he says those 2 other debates against Harris would be on Fox News and NBC.
So I just look forward to these debates. I think it's very important that we have them. I hope she agrees to them. I think they'll be very revealing.
Well, the vice president and her running mate Tim Walz rallying United Auto Workers outside Detroit today. The union formally backed Harris just last week.
And that's what our campaign is about. We love our country. We believe in our country. We believe in each other. We believe in the collective. We're not falling for these folks who are trying to divide us.
Well, a Democratic ticket will now head out west to visit other crucial states where voters say a top concern is immigration. I want to bring in ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks and ABC News Jay O'Brien, along with ABC News senior national policy reporter Ann Flaherty. Glad to have you all here with us. And Jay, look, Donald Trump attacking Kamala Harris today, accusing her, as we've heard time and time, being weak on crime, having open borders. But he also attacked Harris for not taking questions from the media. What message is he trying to get across here today?
Well, one of the messages was to just thrust Donald Trump back into the headlines. As is often the case with the Trump campaign, there is a different political headline playing out, and Donald Trump says something and inserts himself right back into the political conversation. So the headline we've seen over the course of this week is Kamala Harris and her new running mate Tim Walz barnstorming these Midwest swing states with Trump's running mate J.D. Vance close behind them. At one point in the exact same city they were campaigning in. And then Trump has this semi-impromptu press conference and says these various things and thrusts his name back into the conversation. Worth fact-checking very quickly a few of the things he said. He said there would be an economic depression if he were not elected. Obviously, that is not true. There's no way of proving that or disproving that. In fact, as he was speaking, the Dow was up about 700 points. You could have seen it on the split screen. Another thing, and there was a lot in this press conference to unpack, but just one more thing that stood out to a lot of people, is Trump talked about January 6th. He said that people who were imprisoned for charges that relate to January 6th, some of whom were imprisoned on charges of assaulting police officers, were being badly treated by the justice system. He then goes on to say, just gives you a sense of how wielding this press conference was, Kana, that he had bigger crowd sizes on January 6th when he spoke to that Stop the Steal rally that preceded the Capitol attack than Martin Luther King Jr. did when he gave the I Have a Dream speech. Kana.
I want to say nobody died on January 6th either. Mary Alice, as Harris and Walz are blitzing through these campaign trails in these must-win states, how do you see this campaign conversation potentially shift now as Donald Trump sort of pops back up on the screen here? And he, again, as I pointed out, keeps criticizing Kamala Harris for not taking questions from the media, and then he proved today, he was sort of trying to do the opposite.
Yeah, exactly right. I think that he sort of pointed out the fact that he's willing to talk to the press for an hour. Look, I will say that Democrats liked what they saw they thought that Trump did more harm than good. I mean, they were encouraging people to watch Trump's press conference. The theory of Democrats' sort of case around this campaign has long been that if voters clue back into former President Donald Trump more, they will like him less. But look, big picture, if he's going to sit there and take questions from the press, I think that it's going to put even more pressure on the Harris campaign to do exactly that. I mean, so much has happened in such little time, in just a matter of weeks, for President Biden to step out of this race, for the Democratic Party to rally behind Vice President Harris. Obviously now, just this week, her pick with her running mate. Of course it is time for her to talk to reporters more. We're reporters. We always are going to ask for more questions, more press conferences, and of course, very excited to hear that they are committed to these debates. We, as reporters, I think journalists really agree that debates are good for the American people, especially in pinning down what exactly both these candidates want to do and are pitching to do if they get a second shot at the White House.
Exactly. Americans really need to understand their exact policy proposals here and how they would enact them if they were in office. And to you, look, J.D. Vance doubling down on these accusations against Tim Walz, again saying that Walz embellished his military record. He even used the words stolen valor. I mean, that's a serious accusation. I know you and the Pentagon team have been looking into this. So does J.D. Vance have a point here that Walz perhaps misrepresented his service?
Well, stolen valor certainly is an explosive allegation. It even has legal implications because it's, of course, against federal law to imply that you have had military service or to wear a military uniform trying to defraud people. And that's really at the core of this allegation. Vance is saying that Walz is defrauding the American public. Now, here's what we know. We know that in 2005, there was heavy speculation that his unit would deploy to Iraq. He had reached the level of Command Sergeant Major. That's the highest enlisted rank in his unit, but he had already announced that he was running for office. He wanted to go to the House. He wanted to fight against the Iraq War. He voted repeatedly to end the Iraq War, and he was torn in the spring of 2005. He spoke with friends about it and said, you know, I don't want to have to deploy and then seek a deferment. He ultimately submitted his retirement papers, and so we know that he spent 24 years in the military, into the Army National Guard. At the end of the day, I think it should be up to voters to decide whether or not they think that that service is legitimate.
All right, Mary Alice, Jay, and Ann, our thanks to all of you.